Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 304th episode of Real Hawk Talk. I am Brian Nemhauser. You can find me on Twitter at Hawk Blogger, and I think I might have even updated our YouTube channel to Real Hawk Talk, so it's a little bit easier to find that link if you're looking for it. And folks, it's the off season. It is officially the off season. We are into looking at what's going to change with the Seahawks, what the priorities are, what the positions are gonna, how they're gonna change and adapt. And what we haven't done yet is really look at free agency. And so today we're going to go a little bit more in depth about who the free agents are, because honestly, combines next week. We will likely have a lot more information about draft after that. And you can be sure that the way that John Schneider is approaching his draft strategy is by thinking about what gaps he can fill through free agency first. So he can have flexibility to pick the best player available or move around the draft board instead of having to stick and pick a specific position. Let's bring in the crew. We've got Nathan Ernst at Nathan E11. Nathan, welcome. Good to see you, dude.
Yeah, good to see you. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Yeah, I'm doing well. I've been looking forward to talking free agency because I'm not thrilled about the draft situation, man. We'll talk about it more, but like I feel maybe I'll feel different after the combine, but I feel like this draft empties out very fast. And so yeah, I'm looking forward to kind of getting into the free agency stuff with you guys.
So it's not the second round pick that you're worried about. It's picking at 16 instead of a little higher.
I think it's the second round pick primarily, and then also, you know, how you close that gap to get a second round pick, and what's really there after the third round is kind of my question. So Jeff's been the voice of reason. Don't freak out. We'll know a lot more in a little bit, but I'm just telling you where, you know, my instincts are right now, as I feel like this draft empties out a lot faster than I felt like last year's draft did. There are some guys I was pretty excited about in the 5th, 6th, 7th round last year. I haven't gotten there yet. So next, Jeff Simmons at Real Jeff Simmons. You know, Jeff, I keep sending you these mock drafts. You send me your stuff. You've been doing all this research on coaches. One of the things you I think tweeted about today was I was observing that most of these coaches for the Seahawks that have been hired, and we can talk about it if folks want to bring up any specific guys, haven't worked together before. And I think you tweeted that you did some research on that. What did you find?
No, I was curious because you brought up a good point that you see a lot of staffs that have worked together and there's cohesion. And like when Pete came from USC, he brought over a ton of guys he was familiar with. So I was curious and I looked up McVay's staff. I looked up Shanahan's initial staff because first-year head coaches typically don't have a lot of the relationships. And obviously the question with McDonald was what kind of relations did he have? And then I was just looking up like Mike Holmgren's first staff. And then I came across Andy Reid. And I found some article written by one of the beat writers when Nick Sirianni was hired. And his staff was crazy unique. The first staff he put together in Philly, which was 1999, he'd only worked with one coach on the entire staff in the past. And like the Seahawks have pulled a lot of guys out of college. This staff was like loaded with guys who had never coached in the NFL before. So I thought it was cool to see the parallels of what McDonald's done and what Andy did. And when you look at like they actually broke down name by name in this article, and it was Steve Spagnuolo, John Harbaugh, Sean McDermott, Ron Rivera, Pat Shurmur. None of them had coached in the NFL before. None of them had coached with Reid. And none of them, only one guy, and Reid was, when Reid got hired by Holmgren, I learned, he was the offensive line coach at Memphis, I believe. Or no, Missouri. It was Missouri. He was the offensive line coach in Missouri, and Holmgren plucked him to be the tight ends coach. And the Holmgren staff had like Mooch, who was the OC at Cal. And so I found like even looking at Shanahan, who had some guys from that Washington staff, and McVay, who had a couple guys from that staff. Everyone talks about Wade Phillips, but the defensive coaches they hired on McVay's first staff was all pretty much young guys that usually when someone like Wade Phillips comes in, he'll bring in a bunch of guys he's worked with over all those jobs he's had. And it was like Ejiro Evero and some of these other guys had never worked with Wade Phillips before. So it seems like the first-year coaches and the ones that have been really successful, Reed, Shea, and McVay, they have had staffs that look like what Seattle has right now, whether or not Grubb is successful and so McDonald's successful, who the hell knows? I don't have a fucking clue. But overall, the staff does look a lot like how those staffs looked pretty much off the top. I think it's pretty common for first-time head coaches. No, the experienced one usually have like a lot of names they'll bring in that they know.
Now, Jeff, let me just jump in here real quick for a sec, Brian.
Yeah.
Jeff, now you've been following this coaching search much more methodically than I have. Is the only open position, am I correct in saying that the only open position that's like really critical is D-line still?
Yeah, they hired someone today.
Who'd they hire?
Go ahead, Jeff.
It was one of the assistant coaches on the Bears last year. He was the assistant D-line coach. And oddly enough, for Brian's mock drafts, the guy they hired, I can't remember his name,
Justin Hines.
Justin Hines. He coached the D-line for one of the teams at the Senior Bowl. So all of Brian's mock draft D-linemen, this guy just coached them. So
he's a Senior Bowl guy?
It all comes back to
Jim Nagy. So what they do at the Senior Bowl now is they'll let guys who aren't, they'll like elevate guys like a guy like him who was an assistant D-line coach. They'll let him coach D-line. A guy who's like a quarterback coach will be the OC, and OC will be the head coach. And so I don't know if this came from Schneider. I don't know if this came from Nagy, but that was the last big coach that they had. They had the tight ends now. They have the receivers coach, the quarterback coach, but it seems like the staff is pretty much filled at this point.
What is, do you know, you probably don't know the exact average age, but I feel like everybody other than Frazier has been under 45 and several of them under 40. Like, I don't know how old.
Yeah, old's Grubb.
He's like 45.
Yeah, he's right about 45.
Yeah, because there's the linebacker coach.
Oh yeah, he's old too.
That dude, that Grubb is not. Grubb looks a lot older than 45.
Yeah.
That's what. Yeah, I shouldn't comment on that, but he's 47. I verified.
That is the voice of Evan Hill at Evan Hill HB on Twitter. Evan, did you hear Grubb his interview on Stacy and Bump's show?
I got through the first 10 minutes. Was there anything in the last 5 minutes? I know it was a short interview.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys, Jeff, Nathan, if you heard it as well. I think my basic takeaway was more just, God, it is a massive difference in communication and presentation versus a guy like Waldron. Waldron was very
Waldron so much.
What's that?
You never liked Waldron.
Waldron's first press conference irked the shit out of Brian.
Brian, yeah. Like,
yeah, you were like, this guy's not a leader. I'm done.
It made me very nervous, that press conference. He's very mealy mouthed and like not clear. And I think that showed up in his play calling as well. I think he's not a decisive dude in a lot of ways. And anyway, Grubb, you could just hear in everything. There is no nervousness. There is no timidness or trepidation. He might absolutely suck. He might just totally faceplant, but it won't be because he doesn't know himself. It'll be because he come in and do his whole thing and it won't work. But it won't be because, he has doubts about himself or doubts about his process. And I just think that's a huge, huge step forward.
Do you remember which specific player he called out on the offense as having, I think it was like sky high potential? It stood out to me. It was I paraphrased it hard, to be clear.
Yeah, I mean, I remember him talking about each of the receivers, and then I remember him talking about the running. I thought it was more the backs that he seemed to highlight, but what stood out to you?
He seemed very optimistic about Charles Cross taking a
Oh, yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. Yes, he talked about it.
Stood out to me.
7. Yeah, say more. Remember what he said?
I remember the question. I don't remember if it was Stacy or Bump who asked it, but
offensive line, right? They're talking about the offensive line. You're an offensive line guy.
I think it was also like because he was, considering offers from different teams and where to go. And I think those 2 tackle positions as like foundational pieces on the line were an appealing factor for him. And, he obviously mentioned Abe Lucas getting dinged up a little bit, but he did call out Charles Cross and was like, the sky's the limit for this type of guy. Again, paraphrasing, he's somebody who could take a big year 3 jump. And I just found that interesting because that's somebody that I think we all need to. I think us internally are really hoping for as fans takes a big year 3 job.
He has to.
He has to.
He has to. I mean, this is a top 10 pick. And he's been okay. Like, I think he's been an average starter, maybe a little bit above average. But he's flashed some cool stuff, but he's not been consistent. And that's one of the things Greb brought up is he just sees the offensive line. They had some injury problems and they just weren't that consistent.
Yeah.
And I'm really, really curious. We're going to get into this with free agency. We're going to talk about each one of those positions because I think that is a huge question about how this team is going to assemble the roster, or how the front office is going to assemble the roster is right there. But you're right. That did stand out. I'm glad you brought that up. Jeff, you look like you were about to say something. Did I misread your body language?
Yeah, I had nothing there, but yeah, it's funny. It's funny because that tackle draft, there was Ike Ekwonu, there was Neal, and Panthers fans and Giants fans are like still furious they didn't take Charles Cross, who's like been pretty average, and it's just been like none of those three guys have hit, and I'm with you, like they need to see a real jump from him. He has not been exceptional in anything.
I did think it was interesting. He talked about the two tackles being the foundation because
Well,
he had heard that Lucas was. I mean, there's concern among Seahawks fans, among this group, that Lucas has a chronic knee issue and is not a foundational guy. Maybe you can't count on him. So for him to talk about those tackles that way, he didn't come in and make that his own assessment. He's getting that from Schneider. Like, I'm pretty sure. So that's hopeful, I guess. Because I think everyone liked Lucas's play. I was much more bullish on Lucas as a rookie than I was on Cross. But this year was obviously a total disaster with his injury. So, Evan, remind me. Did the 49ers win the Super Bowl? I forgot.
They did not win the Super Bowl. They lost their third consecutive Super Bowl, as a matter of fact, actually.
Wow. God, that must burn. Okay. So we're going to go through a bunch of stuff on free agency. I actually just want to dive in because we'll get to patron questions and we might have to dive back in and out. But as we go into specific free agent areas, let's first talk positional priority. So I would like to hear from each of you. We're going to start on offense. Is there a position, like you could say on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being must sign somebody in free agency, 1 being like don't feel like we need anybody, would be fine if we didn't do anything. I'm going to go through each position group, okay? First, quarterback. Give me your fingers here. 1 to 5. We got 1 for Nathan.
Yeah, 0.
1 for Jeff. 0 for Evan. So I want to ask: does that mean that none of you believe that they should sign a free agent backup?
No, I mean,
how are we treating existing? Like, what do we consider Drew Lock here? Is he?
He's an undrafted free agent. He's an unrestricted free agent, so he's not on the roster.
I see.
Yeah, his contract is expired.
Would it help for me to like do that as we go through each of these, so you guys know the position, like who's on the team and who's not?
No, well, I'm good either way, but
okay.
I just wanted to clarify that.
So let me just ask again then. So like, do you guys think the Seahawks should be in the market for a veteran backup?
I'll bump this to a 2 because I do think that they should draft somebody, and hopefully they draft somebody high-ish. But they also, like, I would be pretty happy to bring Locke back at like the same number, or something really cheap, just because he's serviceable and they seem to be expecting to compete. And so if Geno misses 2 games again, it's probably better to have Drew Lock than whoever you're taking in the 4th round.
Man, I love you, Nathan. I could not disagree more. Like,
is it Lock specifically or just any veteran quarterback?
Like any Drew Lock type of quarterback in that $4 to $6 million range just makes no sense to me on a 1-year deal. Like if Geno goes down, I don't think we're competing for a championship or anything like that. I'd much rather go lean, cheap on a rookie. I don't think the difference between a Drew Lock and some shitty no-name rookie QB in the 5th or 6th round, like I don't think it's that big of a difference. I'd rather take the risk of like saving 4, 5, 6 million. And remember that's just condensed into 1 year. So that's all cash straight off the top of the cap this year.
Can I ask a question about that even though? I guess I think about paying a veteran backup quarterback as being something about when you're in your contending window. If you're not a contender, I think it is an absolute waste of a roster spot and of cap space to have. Like, who cares if you can't win more games with your backup when you're not really contending for the Super Bowl anyway? Like, why
that's
not?
kind of my point. Like,
is that kind of what that's what I'm wondering about? Like,
I don't view us as serious contenders. No.
Right.
I think this team has a shot to be serious contenders to make the NFC Championship game.
Maybe. Yeah, but that's different than Super Bowl contention for me.
Yeah. I mean, they're probably a year or two away from that, a couple years away from that. But like, if Drew Lock is the difference between making an NFC Championship game and not making an NFC Championship game because he wins you a game that your 5th round trash rookie would have lost, and that puts you better seeding.
I'm not confident Drew Lock can do that.
I mean, we saw him beat the Eagles.
A lot of teams beat the Eagles.
Yeah, it was in the stretch of a lot of teams beating the Eagles.
What about
Lock? But it doesn't have to be Lock, right? I mean, there's Tyler Huntley, or there's he's probably fairly popular, but I don't know. Minshew's maybe a little pricey. Flacco, like one of those guys. What were you gonna say, Jeff?
What about the idea of just hedging going into the draft? Like, do you see any value in that, Brian or Evan? Like, if you don't sign a backup core, are you giving draft intentions away, or is that who gives a shit about that? Where do you guys stand on
Are we sure that all those backup veterans are going to be signed before the draft? That you can't make that decision after the draft?
No, but the idea would be just to hold your cards so people don't know you want to draft a quarterback, right?
I mean, that's kind of what they did with Drew Lock to some extent. His contract, I think, there was like some like non-guarantee. They could have gotten out of it before training camp or something like that without having a. I thought there was something to that extent, or that he didn't have enough guaranteed in there to really guarantee a spot. I guess what it comes up to me is I'm with you guys. It's like a one or like a one thing. Like I would much rather the draft be their target for backup than for free agency. It sounds like Seahawks don't agree by all accounts.
Yeah.
And we'll come back to this. I don't know if we will. I will say I heard. Was it Brock? Yeah, Brock Heward brought it up that there's a coach that I think from Denver or something that went to Vegas.
Yeah, I heard him say that today too.
That there's some talk about Drew Lock heating up as something as a prospect that some other teams might want. I'm like,
did you think that was a reach too? Because I heard that today and I was like, he's fishing here.
I don't know. I mean, it's all relative. It's all relative. I
don't think they're doing that to
try to... good for them. Okay. So quarterback, not necessarily our big focus point for free agency. Wide receiver, 1 through 5. 5 being must get somebody. Got a 0 for Jeff.
Yeah, this is pretty low. This is a position where they're already spending like a ton of money in. So 1, 2.
Evans at 1 or 2. Nathan's got Bunny Fufu hopping around at a 2.
Well, can I ask a question here? So let's say Tyler Lockett is getting cut. Does that number change for you?
4? Like I'm all the way up to a 4 at this point.
Okay.
So it shifts significantly.
And that's why I was kind of at a 2 with this. Is like I don't know what's going on with Tyler. Also, if he comes back, how good is he really? Like, it's not a bad thing to have a 4th wide receiver on the team that can fill in. You're going to have an injury somewhere along the line.
Well, and it's worth remembering that Mr. Grubb did call out Jake Bobo. So there's some.
What about D. Eskridge? Did he talk about D. Eskridge at all?
He did not.
Huh? That's so weird.
He did not. But yeah, Derek Young's another name just to keep in mind. Missed the year with injury, had some promise, but got it. Understood. So we'll potentially look at some free agent stuff there. I'm just gauging for where we're going to go a little deeper. Tight end.
Okay, so this is one where it would be helpful for me to know who is actually on the team.
Okay, so Will Dissly, I believe, is the only tight end other than if you want to talk about Brady Russell or, but like basically Colby Parkinson and Noah Fant are unrestricted free agents. Okay. Will Dissly is a likely cut or at least a restructure, like he might have his contract redone. So you're at least 2 and potentially all 3 tight ends gone.
I'm gonna go 4 here.
I think I'm a 3 on this. There's some actual interesting tight ends available.
Yes. Okay. We're going to spend some time on the tight ends. I think for me, I think it's a 5 that you sign 1 free agent tight end. I don't think you can go into the draft without adding at least 1 free agent. It doesn't have to be necessarily top of the heap free agent tight end, but I think you need to have more on the roster than they have.
Tight end is one of the slowest positions to come up to speed, it seems like, and contribute. So asking a rookie that you're likely drafting in the mid rounds to be a major role player seems real risky.
Yeah.
I would more I think about it, the more I would think about giving Will Dissly an extension. Like and keep him static at that number. Like, would you be willing to pay him? I'm trying to remember what it was, $8 million a year. Not remember it wouldn't be all up front, but
no, they gotta lower that. And his numbers were so low last year. You could probably get him.
So I agree, Jeff. You got to lower it for 2024. But
even 20, his numbers were, what do you have? 20 catches last year. Like, he was the 3rd string tight end in snaps last year. Like, I think you gotta get him down to like 4 or 5 million, or else he's gone. Like,
yeah, I agree. I just don't think. I think it's possible to talk about an extension, Evan. I think they can play hardball with him.
Yeah, I think you can, but I fear if you let him walk and you have a completely empty tight end room next year with a bunch of question marks, you could regret that.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. As we talk tight end as a group, I don't know how Grubb's offense is going to look this way, but the fact of the matter is the emergence of JSN and running a lot more 3 receiver sets had a big impact on tight end snaps. And that's part of what went on. So if JSN's not going anywhere, you assume Tyler Lockett maybe is around and DK. If you've got 3 receivers, you're going to run out there a lot. Then tight end just becomes kind of a 2-person position at most, and really probably a 1-person position. So that's where, like, unless Dissly's your guy, I think you got to free up that cap space for other things. And I think we'll look at it. We'll look at tight end for sure. If you can get Colby Parkinson for $3 million a year, I'm not sure that you think twice about swapping those 2 in terms of composition to your roster. Different types of players, but cost to value, that should make sense. All right. So running back, I'm just going to assume 0s unless anyone wants to make a case. And so then let's just talk.
Is Travis Homer a free agent?
No,
he's not. Where is he?
I think he signed a 2-year deal last year, and I think they're trying to get out of it.
They're trading a 2nd-round pick that they don't have this year to get Travis Homer back.
Rashad Penny is a free agent this year.
Penny is a free agent. We are not going to do this. I'm cutting this conversation.
$1.3 million. I mean, if Pete was here, on this guy. Holy crap!
If Pete was still here, they would spend all the free agent money on Derrick Henry. I'm fully serious.
I hope. Yeah, I don't know. We don't have to have that conversation. That's not going to happen. So offensive line, it's kind of almost, you got to break it down a little further than that. You got to go tackles, guards, center. Tackles 1 through 5. I'm going to go through this quick because I want to get into the actual free agents. We'll talk about these groups, but 0 for Jeff. Tackle for me, free agent wise, is like a 3. Not because I'm looking for a starter, but I think that I would like to upgrade Stone Forsythe. Like swing tackle is an interesting position. So it's not nothing for me, but I'm not looking for a starter necessarily. I also like the tackles in this draft, so I'm not as worried if they don't come out with one. Nathan?
We're talking about tackles here?
Tackles. You guys are overthinking this.
I feel like you got to add some depth there.
So what you giving a number?
I'm probably a 3 as well.
3.
Yeah.
Okay. Guards for me is a 5.
Yeah, there's some interesting free agents there too.
Anthony Bradford is on your roster. Some people think that's good enough. Phil Haynes and Damian Lewis are free agents.
Mm-hmm.
So your two technical starters from last year are free agents. So yeah, 5 for me. I think you've got to try to add at least. I think you have to add 1 free agent offensive guard. Okay, yeah. Center. This is an interesting one. You've got Olu. You drafted last year. You groomed him. Evan Brown is a free agent. Do you need to? Whoa.
I'm gonna say 5 just because I really want Evan Brown to come back.
Interesting. All right. Jeff?
Probably closer to 2.
2?
Yeah, I'm a 4 actually.
A 4. Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get into this. We're going to go offense first. I'm going to share what I think is I don't think they had this last year. At least I don't remember it. Nice little rankings view from PFF. Do you guys see this, or do I need to make it bigger at all?
I was using the exact same tab, Brian, on my side too.
Nice. So we can go position by position. So let's we talked about quarterbacks. Let's do a really quick review of who is available. So obviously Seahawks aren't going to be looking at Cousins. It goes as a thin quarterback class. Interesting. They've got Tannehill ahead of Baker Mayfield. I'm not sure that's how the market will play it out at all.
No chance.
Then Gardner Minshew. And it's interesting just to call out. They've got projected contracts here, ages over here.
I think in fairness to PFF, they have Minshew getting more money than Tannehill. I think this is just ratings by.
Yes, right now it is sorted by PFF rank, not by grade or anything like that.
Yeah.
So Minshew, Jacoby Brissett's an interesting name. Like this guy's been a decent starter when he's getting given a chance. If I'm looking for a true veteran backup, he'd be high on my list.
Would you rather take Drew Lock at $4 million or Jacoby Brissett at 6.5 as backup?
I don't. It's money is paramount for me in that position. So cheaper is better.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I take Jacoby Brissett a million times over Drew Lock in that scenario.
As a player, for sure.
With compensation. He is that value for an additional $2.5 million.
Doesn't that counteract what you said before?
Yeah.
No, but I'm saying if we were to spend money there, I'd much rather spend it on Jacoby Brissett than Drew Lock. Like, to me, that's not even close.
Sure, I agree.
Okay, but what about at $2.75 million?
Yeah, so this is what they're projecting for Lock.
It's still good.
I don't think so. I don't think he's going better than last year.
Yeah. So, I mean, Jeff, you brought up Tyler Huntley a couple times. 26, so he's younger than Lock. This is a guy Matt Hasselbeck called out a few years ago as a backup that he likes in Baltimore. Any thoughts there?
I think he's just, if you're going to pay $4 million for a backup or in that range, I find Huntley much more interesting. And I think I pretty know what Locke is. And Huntley at least can get on the move and he can go 500 and he's a really mobile quarterback. And that's call it really all I want in like a veteran backup, someone who can keep the offense afloat and not screw it up. And at least he can win with his legs, and McDonald knows him. So I thought he was a natural fit.
Yeah. I'd agree with that. There's none of these guys that for me, I'm rushing to the table to sign. Like, no, I'm fine if you go into the draft and you don't have any of these guys.
I think those numbers are low. Like the NFL, the value of the backup quarterback this year with all those quarterback injuries, I think teams are going to react to that. Like the Jets not signing one last year and how that just tanked their season. I think guys like Minshew and Brissett are going to get a lot of money.
Well, yeah, I mean, people are talking about Minshew getting at least like Geno's contract, if not Daniel Jones's contract, and the idea that he's going to get 40 million is crazy to me if that happens. I feel like there's a little bit of a reset ready to happen on the wide receiver and quarterback position to some extent, but things don't tend to go down in the NFL very much. All right, wide receiver. Let's talk about wide receiver for a second because Nathan, this was a 4 for you if Tyler Lockett gets cut. I just want to like scroll it through some of these names. I mean, I don't think you're talking about a T. Higgins type. And let me know if you are like top of the market kind of player. Are you?
I mean, how much is Tyler supposed to get paid this year?
It's like 25.
7 million.
27 is his cap number, right?
They gotta do something with that.
Why are they projecting T. Higgins to get a 1-year deal?
Franchise tag. So
he's gonna get tagged. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
And they think Michael Pittman's gonna get franchise tag. That's kind of wild to me.
He's good.
Probably. He's good. Yeah.
So Mike Evans maybe is where you start. This guy's 31 or gonna be. Hollywood Brown. Calvin Ridley is an interesting name. You know,
Ridley's 3 years older than Hollywood Brown. That doesn't feel right, does it?
It's crazy. Wow.
Yeah. Hollywood Brown has played well for the Cardinals. Gabe Davis. Gabe Davis is only 25.
Yeah, he came in really young. I remember Derek was a big fan in that draft year.
He's really interesting. Like if you're talking about swapping out Tyler and putting the money towards just like basically just replacing him with somebody. I mean, Gabe Davis is a very different type of player, but
isn't he an X? I mean, isn't he a DK redundancy?
Yeah, I mean, there is that.
He's super boomer bust too.
Yeah, I feel like Odell is done.
He's so washed.
Like he was not able to be a factor. Tyler Boyd's an interesting name, a little older.
He's redundant with JSN though.
Yeah, I think you're right. Slot guy. Similarly, Curtis Samuel, Kendrick Bourne,
Mooney, and Hollywood Brown, and maybe Samuel to some extent. Like those guys are just straight burners, right? Like that is something that Seattle doesn't. I mean, DK is pretty much just a straight burner in a lot of ways, but those two are definitely a different type, and they would even fit in if you kept Tyler, although you wouldn't afford him. But
yeah, I mean,
this is why I was 0. Like, it's not a very. I would rather draft guys and pay like the Mike Thomases or Josh Reynolds or.
Yeah, there's not a lot of guys here that excite me. Noah Brown is a cheap, could be in Tyler's position kind of guy. I don't know. Like the wide receiver crew of free agency feels ick.
And you can just find them in the draft for so cheap in like the 3rd round.
Yeah. All right. So I don't know. I mean, call them out if there's guys that you guys are super excited about, but I don't think there's anything there. Let's talk tight ends. So they've got Dalton Schultz, who played for Houston this last year, even though he's wearing a Cowboys jersey there, as their top player. They've got him at 3-year deal, $33 million total. Hunter Henry was in New England. They've got him at a 2-year deal for 12. So it's cheaper, even though they're higher ranked. You get to Noah Fant, Seahawk, 3 years, $8 million, 14.5 guaranteed, $24 million total. I think there's an interesting compare here between Noah Fant and Gerald Everett. Noah Fant's 3 years younger, almost 4 years younger. Would you rather Gerald Everett 1 year, $5.5 million, or Noah Fant 3 years, $8 million, 14.5 guaranteed?
Noah Fant. Didn't Gerald Everett fumble 4 times in 1 year for us or something?
Yeah, against the Niners.
I can't do that again. Can't do it.
I'd probably take Everett. I think he feels cooked though. I mean, he's not that old. I think tight ends age a little bit more than other positions, but yeah, I don't know. 3 years,
Yeah.
$8 million is kind of a lot for Fant.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I mean, I don't know if this contract's right, but I mean that was second highest APY at the position.
It's the Disley deal, basically, right?
Yeah, it's a Disley deal.
Yep.
essentially.
Yep. And so then you get into, Adam Troutman's inline blocker. He's like a Disley, Austin Hooper, 29,
He's got nothing left.
Gesicki, like
He's like the opposite. Can't block.
yeah, they don't even have Colby Parkinson on here.
So he's on page 2 or
No, he's not even listed. They only go for the top 200 free agents. He didn't even make the top 200 free agents.
It was weird. I was like looking at that For You tab on Twitter, and for some reason on my thing there was like a bunch of Panthers writers like pleading the team to sign Colby Parkinson because they have Pat McPherson. And I was like, what? You got to be down really low. This is as low as it gets. I'm like, how did I even see this?
I mean, I think that's part of my point. I think Colby Parkinson, he's probably going to be in this range, $2 to $3 million. That's what I would expect for him.
I would do that.
Hell yeah, I'd bring him back at that number.
Yeah, so that'd be kind of my plan at tight end, is to try to bring Colby Parkinson back. Are you guys signing Noah Fant as well, or are you letting him go?
Well, what are you doing with Disley?
What are you doing with Disley? That's your question. The question back to you.
I think you try to extend him.
So you'd extend Disley, lower his cap number, and sign Parkinson, and then you free in the draft. If a tight end falls to you, great. If not, then you've got your 2 tight ends, and you fill in with UFA or something like that.
I don't love it, but I think that's the approach I would take.
Yeah. Okay. Now let's get into the meat. So let's do a quick tackle review. I don't think we're gonna go deep here. I don't think none of you had this as a big thing. I don't think you're signing Tyron Smith or Trent Brown. Although Brown's a little bit interesting because he can totally be a swing tackle for you. He plays both sides. And so, I mean, that's a name. And if it's really 7.5 a year, that's probably too much for a backup kind of player.
But so here's the thing with tackle. Like, can you really look at this as a backup position? I mean, they know more about. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't know. That's the hard part. Like, I need to know about Lucas's. Because if Lucas is banged up like this year, it's a huge priority position.
I mean, they've got Donovan Smith here. If that's right, this guy started on the Super Bowl team. They've got him making $2.5 million.
There's no way. These contract numbers feel low.
That seems crazy to me. He had the most penalties of any offensive lineman or any player in the NFL. So I think he's not like a perfect player by any stretch, but I'd take him over Stone Forsythe.
Yeah, $2 million, sure.
I would take George Fant over.
Yeah, I think that's the one that makes sense. He started for Houston this year, right tackle.
We're just trying to bring Pete's gone, you guys. We're not just going to bring back all the old Seahawks.
No, but he was a capable.
Hey, George Fant could play tight end too. Don't forget.
Yeah.
Line up at wide receiver as well.
But I guess I would rather them grab one of these mid-level veteran swing tackles than have to go bring Jason Peters off of AARP for, a second straight year. Like,
or Jake Curran.
I think they have to think about spending a little money here and treating this as like a starting position because, like your season, we just saw like the effect that the offensive line injuries had on last year. You don't want to draft a rookie and be like, well, our plan is to have him play guard unless Lucas gets hurt. And now you're trying to bounce him around and teach him multiple positions. And who knows if the dude can even play yet. Like,
let's talk about it for 1 second. If you sign a starter at right tackle, I think, can we all agree they're not going to move Charles Cross off of left tackle?
No.
Like, I just don't see that's going to happen.
No,
so if they sign a starting caliber right tackle, can Abe Lucas play guard?
Maybe, probably. I don't know. But why would you want him to?
if he's not going to be a starter, and if he's better than your other guard options, then it also reduces your need to spend on the guard position and draft for the guard position. Like if he's a better player than Anthony Bradford, you know,
I think, but if he's healthy, if he can start, he should start at right tackle. He's good there. Like,
yeah.
So the question isn't like, can he play right tackle? Obviously, it's, is he going to be available? So I don't think you can, like, if you start to think about him playing guard, it's the same problem. He just might not be able to play, right?
So I'm just trying to understand your strategy here. You're signing like spending money on a starting level right tackle as a hedge. And if Lucas is well enough to start, you just eat the money that you spent on a starting caliber right tackle.
Yeah. So like this Trent Brown thing, like that number feels really low for Trent Brown, but like,
yeah, he's 31. So I think that's part of what's going on there.
Yeah. But like, that's probably more than you want to spend for a backup tackle.
Right.
I don't even know if it is that much more than you want to spend for a backup tackle, but like go spend that on like not like a premium starter, but like a borderline, capable kind of starter. And then, yeah, you just eat it and he sits on the bench. And and maybe someone like Brown can play guard a little bit, but like he's there. He's the same thing as a backup quarterback, right? He's there in case Lucas gets hurt or Lucas like can't play the rest of the season. You're not SOL like the Jets was Aaron Rodgers last year.
Yeah, it's an insurance policy, right? You're paying for the insurance, right? So
I get that. I guess for me, it's just I would rather if you can get one of these level Donovan Smith, George Ants, $5 million and under. I would rather hedge that way.
Yeah, I agree. Both of those guys were starters last year, though, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
So keep in mind that Trent Brown deal actually might be a little bit more reasonable, or that projection might be a little bit more reasonable than expected. That's 7.5 to have him at projected. I think he's been making $7 million average over the past 2 years, and like I don't know where you guys would rank him in terms of like the top right tackles in the NFL, but the 10th highest paid right tackle makes $10 million a year. So like, do you view him as top 15? Then yeah, it might be that 7 mil, 8 mil range actually, which might make your argument, Nathan, to eat that as an insurance policy.
It's a good point because not having a proper backup right tackle can unravel their season.
Yeah,
like that game where Jake Curran played right tackle against the Bengals last year. Basically cost them the game. He allowed like 20 pressures.
Cost them the playoffs.
Yeah. And if you can get a guy for $5 million, and even if he doesn't make it, just to hedge Lucas, I think that's sort of a no-brainer.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed. I think it's that's why for me tackle is a position. I think you got to look at it free agency.
Yeah, I've changed my view on that since 10 minutes ago.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah, I rarely have that.
Winning hearts and minds. Now let's talk guard because this is the I think everyone was flashing 5s, 4s on this. We'll go a quick run through this, but I want to hear from you guys, each one of you. Do you have a guard that you would love to see them sign? Keep in mind age, keep in mind total guarantees, all those kinds of things.
$7 million a year for him.
What's that?
Kevin Dotson was traded for like a 6th-round pick. They're saying $17 million a year.
Yeah, they've got him as the top free agent guard is Kevin Dotson, who used to be on the Steelers, got traded to the Rams, and had a glow up, had a big year. And they talk about the fact that McVay went away from zone to a gap scheme. And so I will admit, I don't know enough about these different players, and I don't know Grubb's scheme enough to be able to say what kinds of guards are the best fit for his scheme. So we're just going to be guessing based off of, quality of player and what we think there. So they've got Kevin Dotson as the top. They've got Robert Hunt from the Dolphins as the second. They basically have him getting the same contract, actually even a little bit more. They're the same age. Kevin Dotson, Robert Hunt, same age, same contract, pretty much. Then it goes to Kevin Zeitler, real jump up in age. Kevin Zeitler, 34 years old, but is also much more of a track record, much more consistently good. And then they dropped down to like Dalton Risner. I will just say I'm not a fan of Dalton Risner. I don't want him. Ezra Cleveland, I'm also not a huge fan of him. But then these guys are all ranked ahead of Damian Lewis. And so when I've been quoted and tweeted about the fact that I don't want them to sign Damian Lewis, it is because the contract they projected Damian Lewis at, 4 years, $10.5 million, $42 million with $24 million guaranteed. Yeah, right? Let's not do that.
I do not want to pay him that type of money.
Let's not do that.
Yeah, that's the Shaq Griffin contract all over again.
Give me Kevin Zeitler, for
Yeah,
a
that
couple
seems
$1
pretty
million
good.
cheaper. Like, dude, I do not care about a 33-year-old tackle. He is still productive. Guard. He is still so productive. And he's been productive for a very long time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I would love to see them swing. I'd love to see them get an offensive lineman at 16. One that could play guard. That would be pretty cool. And then, bring in Zeitler, see what shakes out between him, Haynes, and Bradford next year. It's like, if you can get him on this 2-year deal, then you can come back and try to find another guard in the draft or something, more sustainable. But get yourself a serviceable right tackle and don't just have a black hole behind Abe Lucas, and then get yourself a serviceable guard to throw on the heap with what you already have. Draft somebody. And I feel like you're solid. Like, you've got a chance that, if your draft guy doesn't work out the first year, you could still get 2 guys out of Haynes and Zeitler and Bradford. And
yeah, you got Bradford. Like, it's not like the cupboard's empty. And they also have the 2 guys that we don't know, by the way, on tackle and guard, there were the 2 guys that they got off of other teams' practice squads. Sorry, let me pull up who that was. There was McClendon Curtis was one of them. And then Raekwon, I want to say.
McMillan?
It was Raekwon. I don't know. He's not showing up here. In any event, there was another guy that they signed as well. So they might. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I remind you that John Schneider, 3 years ago, made a very aggressive chase for Kevin Zeitler? Do you guys remember this? It was the Joe Thuney sweepstakes. It was the Kevin Zeitler sweepstakes. And I think it's what ultimately led to the Gabe Jackson trade, right?
It was.
So they made one of the most aggressive offers on the market for Kevin Zeitler. Maybe there's a little there is history there. Maybe
Mike McDonald. Mike McDonald certainly has a tie there.
That's an excellent point.
I think you could make a case for Zeitler as well because he is older. That is a very young offensive line. And especially if you're planning to go with Olu as your starting center, and you're potentially talking about drafting a rookie, you're talking about all 3 third-year and less guys. So it might make a lot of sense to bring in one wily vet to help lead that room.
Yeah, they need some big time man strength. I heard Ray Roberts on the radio. He was saying they need a meat eater or something. I don't know what the term he used was, but they need
meat eater.
Yeah, he was saying they need guys who are just eat meat off the bone and the dirty. I don't know if it was the Jim Mora dirt bags. He was just, I think that was the term he used, but. I like this little sweet spot here, Brian, on your list.
Well, yeah. So before we move off guard, I mean, this has been a good conversation because I think Zeitler has been a guy I'm a little hesitant to build your next 2 to 3 year offensive line with a guy that's 34. But I can kind of see it now, why that might make sense. I really like Jonah Jackson. PFF does not. So everyone who thinks I only go by PFF, here's an example of that not being the case. Jonah Jackson, starter on the Lions. I thought him being injured in the Rams game, I think might have been the difference between them winning in San Francisco and not. I think he is a really good guard. He is young. He's 27. So he is basically Damian Lewis, same age, and they've got a very similar contract. They've got him for much cheaper. They've got Damian Lewis going for $42 million total, 24 guaranteed. They've got Jonah Jackson going on a 3-year deal instead of 4 is the reason. So I think it's actually the same, a little bit less, 10.25, 10 and a quarter per year instead of 10 and a half. I would take Jonah Jackson 100 times out of 100 over Damian Lewis.
There's just too many. There's too many connections to Zeitler to think that they won't do it.
And there's this guy, John Simpson, who started left guard. This guy's a fucking horse.
He is. What do you think? So my read of Simpson is he's kind of Anthony Bradford. So I don't know that you're really changing your line that much by signing him. What do you like about him, Jeff?
He's a fucking. And the thing with Bradford was he's way overweight right now. Like he looked like he was like 340 and like he struggled moving laterally. And Simpson can play at that size, and he's not technically sound like Zeitler is. Like you see the grades, it's a completely different class of grades. But he's just like a big fucking monster at left guard who can kind of push people around. But I don't think he's like a solution or anything. He's a stopgap kind of guy. But he was
he a meat eater?
He's a horse.
He's a horse, man. Look at this guy. He's a fucking.
I love this.
Horses don't eat meat though, so we have conflicting metaphors.
I think a guy like Graham Glasgow's also interesting as a hedge. He is like this is a wrong, but like he's like the veteran step back from Zeitler. Like he is not Zeitler, but he's a starting caliber guy that can be a backup, and he's a vet. He could fit in there and be someone you get on the cheap. That gives you a little bit of a hedge.
Wait, can I ask a very serious question?
Yes.
Do you guys feel like there's any guard or tackle or even a center in the NFL who's a vegetarian?
Shut up, dude.
No, I'm being dead serious. And would you sign one who's a vegetarian?
I mean,
on the offensive line.
If they're good, I don't care what they eat.
No way.
On the offensive line. You would sign a run blocking guard who doesn't eat red meat.
It's the biggest red flag I've ever heard.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
I don't care.
I'm with Evan. I would not. That would be like I won't sign that guy for $1.
Exactly. I'm just telling you. I'm making judgments based off this.
I understand.
I saw John Feliciano on that list. That guy is like I would not touch that guy with the 200-foot pole. The way he was like tweeting after that Snyder Super Bowl.
Oh, there's a lot of stink on him. I will say though, he was a sneaky big part of the Niners second part of that year. He replaced Spencer Buford as a starter and was a real upgrade. I'm not saying they should sign him, but I think 49ers fans know that this guy was better than what they were playing there before.
Yeah.
But he's
keep him away from Jalen Carter.
Yeah. So, all right. So it sounds like you guys are most excited about Zeitler. Is that what I'm hearing? Nathan, is that where you're at?
Yeah, the combination of still playing well and shorter deal is really appealing to me.
Man,
would any of you make a case for Robert Hunt? Like to go up, like, are any of you saying like at the point like, no, we're gonna sign a young Pro Bowl proven guard that is going to be a fixture on our line for the next 6 years or whatever? No one's there for that.
I just don't think that's him. Like has he been to the Pro Bowl?
You guys can look it up easier than I can.
Yeah. If there was a guy like that who was just like you're getting that stud guard, like if you can get like the equivalent of Lane Johnson to come play guard, sure, I'll give the guy $20 million. But I think Robert Hunt is the free agent you should be like terrified to pay. Like those kind of guys are the scariest free agents. I call them the Draymond Jones types. You don't want to pay that like second tier kind of good guy like they are the good guy, and look at that deal a year later and say, well, what the fuck were we thinking? Like the Seahawks did last year.
So Damian Lewis.
Yeah.
I think Robert Hunt is a significant step up from Damian Lewis. Like, I'm pretty confident that, like, again, scheme matters. So whether he's a scheme fit, can't say for sure. But I think Robert Hunt is a much better guard. And so I will say 17 and a half feels rich, but I am open to opening up. I would have been happier with the team spending this kind of money on a guard. I think guards, if you look back, free agent guards have worked out more often than a lot of other positions that you spend big money on in free agency.
Yeah, and especially in the draft, Nathan mentioned at 16 overall. Like, I know there's talk about like where you draft guards analytically because you can typically find them. Like, if you look at like the return on investment on like highly drafted guards, the return is very strong. It's like some of the highly drafted, like was when Zach Martin got taken and guys like that, and Chris Lindstrom, and there's not a lot of like highly drafted guards that haven't hit. So I know analytically you can get better value in the fourth round or whatever, but I'm totally good with them drafting a guard in the first round. Like, I think they need a priority player there.
Wasn't Robert Hunt linked to the Seahawks in the draft way back when?
There were people, I think it was the 2020 draft. I don't know.
Yes, 2020.
There were people who really liked him. But I think it was more of a second round player. That was the year they took Brooks.
So he had a virtual visit with the Seahawks. Interesting.
I just don't know a lot about like Grubb and Huff's scheme. Like, Brian, I don't know if you know more about that, but like, in terms of like body types, like,
I mean, they had big guys on their line for sure, but I just, like I said, I think we're gonna figure that out on our pod. I think the question is, are we willing to spend more than $10 million a year on a guard if there's someone out there that is of high caliber? That's kind of the question. For me, I'm open to it. Like, I think it's an important, if you can get someone that you really believe can be a fixture, I'm open to it. But my guess is, I'm the most skeptical that this Jonah Jackson contract is accurate. I feel like he's going to get closer to 13 a year. Like, I think he's probably going to re-sign with Detroit first of all, but
I don't trust his name.
that's the vibes rankings are real.
He's got the double J, man.
That's my problem.
It's solid.
The 2 J's. No, that's
I think he's got to smile. Like, you want to see a little bit more, But that's my only other guy. And that and don't sign Damian Lewis. Those are the things I feel most strongly about.
Yeah.
All right. Let's take a quick look at center before we do some patron questions, and then we'll do a quick mock for whoever wants to stick around for that. So centers. I admit, I don't know. Like, I didn't know Connor Williams that well. This guy was extremely well graded last year. He only played 500 snaps. Started at guard in his career and then moved to center. Andre James, like they're talking about $7.5 million a year. Centers just don't get paid, man. They don't get paid. So there's some people that have had Cushenberry actually linked as someone that the Seahawks should look at.
He's that projection.
What's that?
So
they're giving him $14 million a year.
that's a lot of money for a center.
It is.
That's like a lot.
That's an oddly high compared to the guys above him who are like,
yeah.
By the way,
half his
flashback to 2020 or 2018. LJ Collier was bullying Connor Williams in that Dallas Cowboys Seahawks game, by the way, at home.
No way.
So just so you know, if we sign Connor Williams, he was bullied by LJ Collier back in the day. It's just a little anecdote. That's all.
So for what it's worth, Nathan, they've got Evan Brown on the list. He's the bottom of their list, but he's on there, and they've got him at 3 years, $4.5 million.
That's maybe the worst projected contract that we've seen, because when you're making $4.5 million, nobody takes like a 3-year deal on that, right? Like, everyone's just taking 1 year and then like hoping they can.
Yeah, I think 2 years is tops for him. Brian Allen is now a free agent because the Rams cut him. He was their center, right? I think there's talk of them moving maybe Avila to center, possibly their draft pick from last year.
I mean, I
Guys-
like the idea of bringing Brown back and just rolling with Brown and Olu. I think those two together are you're
100%.
good at center.
I'm okay with that.
I don't think this is a position you want to. I don't know. I don't think you want to throw $15 million at Connor Williams.
No.
Oh,
Like-
disaster.
Like, I don't want to. Like, looking at these free agents, there's not a guy that's like I must have and throw
No,
a
not
ton
a
of money
single
at.
one.
And it's like, just bring back Evan Brown for like a couple million. He's good enough.
And I think that's probably what they'll do. So, I mean, we're only going to get through offense. We're only going to get through offense on
Slim,
today's
is that
pod.
size? Slim, medium, thick?
I thought you'd like that. At least Evan
What?
did.
We'll go back to that.
Wait,
You got
what?
slim, medium, and meat eater size.
They're
No.
talking
I
about
found the
This is
it's
quote.
talking about how much they show for each name. That's all it's referring to.
They
Evan.
really did
Ray
the
Roberts
double
called
T.
him a freaking meat eater.
Wait, can we filter by vegetarian or not?
Nope, not on here. Does
Bummer.
not show. So all right, I'm gonna do a quick thing here and put all the needs that we've kind of gone through here on offense. Tell me, guys, who are your top 3 free agents that we've talked about today on the offensive side that you really would like to see the Seahawks sign? Can be at any position.
Kevin Zeiler.
Zeitler's one for you.
Mm-hmm. It's just bad that there's not players I'm like, I got to sign this guy on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I was reading an article yesterday, and Mike Sando put out the top 150, and the guy who does the show with him, Randy Mueller, said in this free agent class, all the good players are on defense, and all the value is on offense.
For me, it's pretty straightforward. It is one of the guards. I'll take Jonah Jackson or Zeitler. I've been convinced into Zeitler. I'll be okay with that. A backup tackle, George Fant, one of those level guys, and Evan Brown.
Yeah.
Like Colby Parkinson's in there somewhere, but like I think you need all these guys are essentially $2 to $3 million, types of free agents, except for your guard. Your guard on offense, I'm willing to spend 10 million, up to 12 million, 13 million if necessary to get someone really good.
Especially because they don't have money coming in at that spot for at least 2-3 years. Like, they don't have to pay Cross or Lucas. So your whole group's going to be rookie contracts. So I think that's a spot you got to splash somewhere at.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I still like the idea of kind of going $7 million guys at both right tackle and guard, and not having too long of a commitment there. But if you can, if you want to gamble and you go cheap at tackle, maybe you don't even maybe you just draft somebody mid-round, you keep Forsyth around or whatever, and then you just throw 14 million at. But I don't love Hunt enough to say try to go get a guy like that. But if they do and they think they can lock that up, like you're saying, and have a B+ guard for the next 4 years, I kind of like that. That's hard to say no to over kind of nickel and dime yourself trying to fill a bunch of holes.
Well, that's exactly my thought, Nathan. And I think Jeff's question is the right one. Is Robert Hunt that guy? I think it's a totally fair question. Kevin Zeitler is that guy for at least, I think you can be pretty confident Zeitler's that guy for 2 years. I think past that, you're really starting to hope.
Yep.
And so that's the hedge is do you go Zeitler? I think Jonah Jackson could be that guy.
That'd be cool.
And so that's where he's younger. I'd like to roll the dice on someone like that. Did he make the Pro Bowl? I was curious.
The Jackson thing, I just feel like there's a good chance you're going to be we just paid. you're going to end up in the same place as if you paid Lewis.
By the way, Jackson was a Pro Bowler in 2021, not the last 2 years.
Now, there's one critical offensive free agent that we have not discussed.
Yes.
That is leaving the Seattle Seahawks.
Who's this?
DJ Dallas.
End of an era.
I'm so glad we don't have to see him like punt or like return kicks anymore.
You
Like-
see that meme of video of Harbaugh watching tape of DJ Dallas returning punts, and it was like a
What?
270-pound guy. Like,
I have not. No.
It's very funny. You didn't see
it's
it.
so funny, dude.
I can't
Wouldn't it be
handle
nice if they actually tried to create something dynamic in the return game? It would be nice.
that. Man, we have not had that since like Tyler Lockett, rookie
No.
year.
Rookie.
It feels like.
No.
How did they get so far away from that? Like, Pete is so adamant, like, Percy Harvin's going to play special teams. We're going to get everything we can. And then they, like, Lockett was awesome for a year. And then it was just like, and they even tried to, like, throw Earl Thomas out there. And that was
Richard
in the middle
Sherman,
of,
too.
Like,
I
yeah,
know.
yeah. And that was when, like they were legit,
Doug
they
was
were
doing it for a
awesome.
bit.
It was like they were really risking something there with that. And now they're like, DJ Dallas.
Let's hope there's a reboot all over the place. All right, let's take some Patreon questions. Nathan, if you could take a look and chat for those, and then we will do a quick mock, and we'll call it good. So if you haven't already, give the show a like, click subscribe, click the bell to get notified when we go live, and go to patreon.com/hawkblogger. Sign up right now, get access to the Slack channel right away, where the hot stove league for football is hopping, and lots of conversation going on there. Patreon.com/hawkblogger, and you get to ask us questions each week when we do the show. Nathan, let's aim for like 4 or 5.
Okay. Evan, first one's coming your way. The Durs wants to know, what's our current cap situation?
Yeah, so Seattle, I believe, is about $5-6 million over the cap right now. The final numbers for 2024 in terms of what the cap limit is going to be is TBD. I think there were some rumors the other day that it said it might be higher than what we expected, but it feels like that's the case every single year. So Seattle's $5.2 million over the cap right now. So in the red, that's bad. Seattle's got to make some moves. They got to clear up some space. The good news is they can do that fairly easily, but it might mean saying goodbye to some fan favorite names and some not so fan favorite names. So we'll see. They got to make some moves. They can open up space, but I also wouldn't say they have like an abundance of cap flexibility this year.
So we just spent like $18 million on offense in free agency. How do they get from $5 million in the red to Zeitler, Trent Brown, and Evan Brown?
Yeah, so I think there's players you have to talk about with the names being Jamal Adams, Tyler Lockett, Quandre Diggs, and Will Dissly as potential contract adjustments. And it actually opens up space pretty quickly.
Do you have a rough number on what that would open?
Yeah, so let's just say we did a post-June first cut on Jamal Adams to give us as much leeway as possible. So that splits his dead
Can I pause you on that one before you go into it? Because Joel Corey was on Bump and Stacy this week and actually talked specifically about ball, and I wanted to know if this would make sense to you. He said he thought they could actually save more room on the cap with Jamal by having his agent approach the team and say, hey, instead of a cut, let's lower our deal for this year to something close to Julian Love's $6 million, and then we'll have incentives based on play time. So something that basically would be more than he would get as a free agent, but low enough that when with incentives that would be a lower cap hit than if they just cut him. Does that make sense to you?
It does make sense because the incentives would not count against the cap up front, because the way incentives and escalators work in the NFL is if the player hit those incentives or escalators the year before, it hits the cap up front that year. And in Jamal's case, he sucks absolute ass. So he did not hit any good incentives or escalators last year. And if he produce really well next year, then he would the team would retroactively receive like a negative cap credit that they would have to apply to the salary cap. But like his 2020, so it does make sense in my brain, but like, is he a guy you want on this team next year? Like, I don't know. To me, it's a bigger personality question. And
can you do that too? Like, can you just go in and be like, here, sign this for less money?
If they both renegotiate, absolutely.
You can do whatever you want. Okay.
Yeah, if they both, I mean, keep in mind his base salary for 2024, base salary, not signing bonus, divided by whatever 17 games it is, it's $16.5 million. It's a lot of money. A lot of money.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, well, assuming just a post-June cut.
Yeah, so so a post-June 1st cut opens up $17 million on Jamal Adams. It's a lot of money.
And you got Brian Monet, who's $5 million.
Yeah, Brian Monet's $5 million.
You got Disley,
the Eskridge.
So let's just say, I'm gonna do a pre-June 1st cut on Tyler Lockett. What do we want to do on Quandre Diggs? Do we want to extend him? Cut him?
Sure.
We're gonna cut him. Okay. So we cut Quandre Diggs, we cut Tyler Lockett, and we do a post-June 1st cut on Jamal Adams. All of a sudden, Seattle has $30 million on cap space. $30 million.
I think we're being hopeful about
Diggs, right?
Diggs.
Yeah.
I don't think they're cutting him either. You could extend him.
I have no idea.
You could extend him and drop his number pretty significantly.
We didn't get to it tonight, and we'll get to another time, but like Geno Stone, and I'm not saying they go and sign him for sure, but his projected free agency contract is so much more appealing than what Diggs is thinking.
Okay, so let's just say, let's take an even cleaner approach. Post-June 1st cut on Jamal Adams, cut Tyler Lockett, cut Brian Monet, just those three moves. Seattle has $25 million in cap space.
But so, like, I mean, we're talking about spending $14 to $17 million on a guard potentially, right? Saying, hey, go get your guy.
That's APY. So the year one hit is going to be like
that's true.
Million.
Exactly.
True.
So remember, year one is much, much lower.
Yeah.
And they'll be able to do the same magic with Brooks or whoever.
And then next year's cap, if you get rid of Lockett and Draymond Jones and all that, it's very clean next year.
And you have to also imagine, even if you're a huge Geno proponent, Geno Smith, that is, like, he's not more than 3 years as your starter. Like, I think that's highly unlikely. So you're talking about that coming off at some point and, hopefully having a rookie contract. So there's a few things that could change with the Seahawks contract if you want to push money into the future.
Yeah, in the next 2 years, they should be able to get rid of Jamal. Quandre's a free agent next year. I don't think they'll bring him back. So Jamal, him, Draymond Jones, Lockett, other than DK, and DK's in the last year of his deal next year. So they're going to have a ton of cap flexibility to build this thing out. But this year might be a step. It's a slower step because of all the bad deals they've had at the top of their cap.
I forgot that DK extension was only 3 years. Sorry.
Yeah.
Continue.
Yeah. We got to get to Patreon questions. Nathan, hit us.
This is a Patreon question.
Oh, right. Yeah. So,
Jeff, Mark Zuck wants to know, what would piss you off more? Leonard Williams going somewhere else and doing well, or Jamal Adams going somewhere else and doing well?
I think Leonard Williams. I think Jamal is just like a sunk cost in my brain at this point. Like, I just want to move on. I don't care if he does well somewhere else. It'll just, the whole thing sucks no matter what. And him going on will just, if he had like a great personality, I'd maybe feel a little differently. But the Leonard Williams thing to like give up a second rounder, not sign him, and then watch him play well somewhere else, that would just eat at me.
Could you imagine giving up a second rounder for a defensive lineman and then watching them go somewhere else and play well? That would be a totally new experience for a Seahawks fan.
Yeah, they've never done that before. Especially like Leonard Williams is like the perfect fit in like the McDonald like scheme, and like it would just be so stupid.
But that if Adams goes somewhere else, you're gonna have to see the Instagram stories. Leonard Williams isn't doing that. Leonard Williams is not taking crap on the Seahawks in his Instagram stories.
It's true, but like I'd rather that happen than him be here.
Yeah.
That was a hard question.
Yeah. Brian, Brendan wants to know, who do you think is the most likely Ravens free agent to come play in Seattle to follow his coach?
Ooh. Well, we talked about Mr. Zeitler. I think the candidates are Zeitler, Geno Stone. Is it Matabuike? I don't know if I've got the pronunciation there. And then you've got Patrick Queen. Those are probably the most likely quartet to talk about. I think Zeitler might be the most likely. I mean, Clowney is another guy you could put in that list.
Oh, bring him back.
I just don't think that they're going to spend on the edge when I think they are going to bring in like Leonard Williams. So I don't think they're going to do both. So honestly, when I looked through everything today, I came to the conclusion of Geno Stone being the most likely from a price standpoint and for value. But going through today, I'll go with Zeitler.
Okay. Maybe we'll just roundtable this one from Michael Mathis. Does this offseason so far increase your confidence in John Schneider, decrease it, or leave it the same? Evan?
Massively skyrocketed.
Jeff?
Way increased too.
Brian?
I think it improved. The proof will be in the performance and the fitting of the players and the coaches and the product on the field. But they've picked a lot of people that I wanted them to pick, so I'm pretty happy about that. So yeah.
Isn't that such a weird feeling, by the way?
Yes, it's a little disconcerting. But I'm looking forward to it, man. I really am. I haven't felt that way for a long time.
There really hasn't been like a bad piece of news in a long time. Like a lot of I'm not going to pretend like I know every single assistant coach that they've hired and stuff, but like my reaction has either been like, okay, that's a person, or oh, cool, that's interesting, or that's awesome. Like,
The worst piece of news by a long shot has been how many of them and how often they've mentioned Drew Lock. Easily the worst piece of news.
There is a Patreon comment about that from Jason A. saying the social media admin is posting Drew Lock content. Can we get them on a future pod and grill them about what they know that we don't?
Huh. Maybe I'll get them on my other pod talking about their career, and I'll slip in a Seahawks question just under the guise of career questions.
Do you want to plug your other pod, Brian?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, check out the Work Dad pod. We have one episode up. Great episode with Veronica Belmont. Was once the most followed woman on Twitter, and became a product manager. And walked away after being a host on the red carpet for a Game of Thrones premiere. She gave it all up. So cool story. Awesome female leader. And yeah, go check it out. Work Dad pod. So what else? We got one more question, then we'll do a mock and call it a night.
Jeff, Nathan Modison wants to know, what do you feel will be the one move that will shock everyone? Either a surprise cut or trade or free agent signing, draft pick maybe. Do you think, is there any big, splashy, surprising move that you think could be lurking out there for the Seahawks? Not necessarily absolutely going to happen, but maybe in the realm of possibility.
I think the one, I don't know if it'd be surprised based on the tea leaves, but I think the Geno Smith trade, you have to wonder about that, just the way they've talked about him, the way that Schefter story was clearly planted. It was more of a come and get me thing. They've not come in and had strong support of Geno. It's been really lukewarm. I think they're going to make some move in the offseason. I don't know if it'll be a cut, or I don't know if they'll trade someone, but I think they're going to do something that's surprises some people. That's what typically happens with new coaching staffs and older established regimes. But I think it's hard not to think of that Geno Smith tweet from Schefter and think that a trade is a distinct possibility, even though I probably don't agree with it.
Can I ask a follow-up question on this? I know you guys are trying to get to the mock.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I asked C Mike spin move this question on Twitter because he's a big Geno stan. So I wanted to ask
Geno stan.
the Geno stan.
He was ahead of the curve, man.
He was 100%. He's a very smart guy. So what is the minimum draft compensation you would be personally comfortable with in exchange for trading him? Don't argue against the trade. Don't ask why. Just assume it's happening. What is the minimum draft compensation you would personally feel comfortable with in return for Geno? Don't try to figure out the team. Just the draft compensation.
I saw his answer to your question, by the way, which was
Too.
hilarious. But yeah.
Yeah, he wanted like a first and a second or 2 firsts if one of the first isn't top 10 or something like that.
Yes.
I didn't totally.
I don't think that's insane, guys. I really don't.
Yeah, that is. Yeah,
It is. It's absolutely insane.
well,
It's
I'm
absolutely. He's 34.
I am a
years old,
huge.
and-
Go ahead, Jeff.
Oh, I'm gonna say like he's 34 years old. He's had like 1.5 or even 1 full good year of play. Like
We just saw him hit the open market, and the most he could get is this Seahawks contract that we weren't sure he was actually going to make it to his second year. I just don't. I understand why Griff feels that way. I understand, and I mostly agree with him about how good he thinks Geno is.
Mhm.
I don't think that value is there.
I
I don't think it's
His-
even close. I think
I don't think
is
they could get more than a 4th round pick. I'm fully serious.
that's insane.
Well,
the
so
other way
that's
too.
a different. That's a
I
different.
don't think
question,
they
though.
could. I don't think there's a market.
No, that's a fair assessment.
Would I take a 4th round pick? Fuck no. But
Yeah. What
I
are
don't know if that's out there.
so? Wait, I want the answer on.
I
the
would
record,
take a
though.
2nd round pick for Geno.
Yeah,
would
I
take
think
a
that's
second.
my answer. I would take a 2nd round pick.
I was gonna say but it needs to be like top 40. It needs to be a top. 40,
Yeah.
45.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
taking
No,
61 or something.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And
100%.
I think that would be I think that'd be a pretty stupid deal to make. And I also don't think that anyone's probably going to do that.
Yeah.
That's where I can't square my head with that because I don't see who's doing that deal.
Because not only everything that you said, Jeff, but who is the team? What's the I know you're saying Evan, don't think about the team, but
Yeah.
if we were actually to think about it, what can you get? Who is the team that's going to be trading a 2nd round pick for Geno?
I mean, Atlanta.
Steelers.
Yeah.
Maybe?
Like Justin
Steelers.
Fields, 10 years younger.
I mean,
You can sign Russ
I'll
for
be
the
totally
vet minimum,
honest.
like-
I think let's just take Justin Fields and Geno. There is absolutely more of a market for Justin Fields. And I think that Geno is a significantly better quarterback than Justin Fields and will always be a better quarterback than Justin Fields.
100%.
So I think that is a situation where the NFL is totally friggin' wrong and that they will make because they can pass it off as a young, up and coming, dynamic, athletic guy that we're going to make him into something, but it's a dumb move. He will never be as good. Like Geno is very good. And I do believe that. And the NFL just doesn't value him that way. So I think the Seahawks should just be happy with having a undervalued quarterback on their roster who is at worst top 15 in the NFL. I think realistically top 12. And at times there were times last year, even PFF talked about it, where not this past season, the season before, he was a top 5 quarterback by almost any metric. If you can have a guy that peaks at top 5, you're paying him at the 12th best quarterback. Stop trying to get rid of him. Stop talking about fucking Drew Lock. Draft a young guy and play Geno. There's a way worse issues than having Geno Smith as your starting quarterback.
I don't understand. I mean, I know that we've been over this a lot, but if you don't like Geno, okay, I can get that. I don't agree with you, but I get that. You think Geno's not the guy. He's not going to be the one to take you to the promised land. I don't really think I agree, but sure, I get that. But those same people then turn around and more often than not are like, and that's why you have to start Drew Lock. And it's like, what is happening? Why is that the guy? Why have people pinned their hopes and dreams on Drew Lock?
So I will give my best a guess at an answer there, at least what I've surmised from this. There are people that actually think Drew Lock is as good. So I'm going to set those people aside as just like people that I don't really agree with at all. But there is some logic to the notion of Drew Lock will cost a fraction of what Geno will. And so they're not actually Drew Lock stands. They are draft a QB stands who want to have the contract, the cap benefit of getting Geno off the books. And then Drew Lock is good enough that if the rookie quarterback can't play, that they'll be like, that's, I think, the logic that people put forward. That is a fair alternative roster approach. It's not the one I prefer as a fan or as, an analyst, I guess you could call us, but I can kind of get behind that. I understand that.
So you guys are all a high second is minimum what you would need. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Did we have one more question or are we getting to the mock?
No, I think that's it.
Awesome. Well, that was Patreon questions, patreon.com/hawkblogger. Sign up. You get instant access to Slack and you can ask us questions as well. Folks, let's do a mock now that we've done the offensive side of free agency, and we're going to do a different mock draft simulator because, frankly, PFF's mock draft simulator has been a little stupid lately. And I think that the trades are stupid, and I think that the rankings are a little bit stupid. So here we go. We're going to take a look here. And this is the NFL mock draft database.com. We're already set up to get going. We are going to start the draft right here. And we are assuming we're not going to move up.
Whoa, a Dunze. Is it a Dunze? A Dunes?
A Dunze, yes.
A Dunze. He went third?
I'll show you. Yes, they
he was
had
first receiver off the board.
Marvin Harrison 7. Caleb Williams 8.
Yeah.
Okay, now this is credible. So
mostly okay after that.
I
What's
guess
that?
it's fine after that. Like the players,
Wiggins?
Cooper DeJean,
I don't know.
Nate Wiggins.
G Mitchell. Oh, it's Q Mitchell.
Yeah,
Okay.
Quinion
No,
Mitchell.
he's actually a guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of
So if we don't like this, we can always, do other stuff. We have some trade offers here. So let's see what offers are on the table. We're not going to take a second round pick and a first round pick next year. We're going to stay focused. Everyone's trying to trade next year's picks. So we're not going to take any of these offers.
What that Bucks next year first?
We're not going to take a next year pick. Not for the mock draft. It might make sense in real life, but we're going to stay focused on this year. These are some of the guys that are available. Do you guys like Fuaga's interesting? We just talked about guard, tackle. We haven't yet talked on the defensive side. What do you do here? You looking to trade back? Are you jumping at the chance to draft one of these guys? Johnny Newton, by the way, is how he prefers his to be called.
I think you got to trade back.
I think you got to try to trade back. Yeah.
Fuaga's not enough to.
Fuaga for me is really tempting. I think he's a surefire.
Could he play guard?
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
Well, maybe.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is you don't have a second round pick. And so if you want to get a quarterback, a linebacker, and a defensive tackle, you're not going to be able to do it without trading back here, most likely.
Yeah, I mean, I really like this draft from like 25 to 40-ish, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so Fuaga's a guy that's pretty tempting to stay for, but if you can get, trade back and get like 27, and I don't know that you can get something in the high second round, though. You might have to give up the third or something, but that is pretty interesting to me.
All right, let's take a look at trades just for a second. If we traded, the one that I'm starting to get a little curious about is Philadelphia. They're at 22. And I can see like they're always looking for linemen, so they could be jumping up to get, the center to replace Kelsey, whatever. So if you could go like, oops, for whatever reason, it doesn't let me deselect that. Gosh darn it. If you could, let's try this again. Such a bad UI. Okay. If you go that and maybe include like fifth or let's do a fourth. A third. Would you guys do that? Would you trade up from the third, go back to get a second round pick to move back 6 spots?
Yeah, I'd probably do that.
That's
Jump
kind of
up.
the thing I'm feeling, right? Like give up
Jump
one
up.
of the thirds.
Give up 17 spots.
Well, you move back 6 to move up almost 30.
Right.
Yeah, you have to do that. So then you can even move down to
Probably
22
let's
again.
let's
Yeah.
try to reset this for a second. I think you could probably get the 50th. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd do that.
So even with Fuaga, you'd do this, right?
Yeah.
Let's do this. Let's see how it goes. All right. So we've now had that trade come through. We're back.
Still there.
Is
Back
he
on
still
the clock.
there?
Fuaga's still there.
This
So
mock draft is insane.
yeah, this seems a little bit crazy, but Fatanu went ahead of him. So we're
Should we move
taking
down
him.
again?
What's that?
We
Still
have
got-
to make him here, but
I mean, you still got Johnny Newton,
Who do you guys take?
JJ McCarthy.
I consider moving down again. Fuaga, Murphy, and there's 3 guys really you have to end up with: Newton, Fuaga, or McCarthy. Or Murphy.
Nothing interesting here.
No,
They just all keep trying to trade next year's picks.
let's just draft some.
Let's take Fuaga.
Yeah,
There's
no chance that happens.
no chance. No chance. So
Maybe
then
he has a picture of him with a bong and a gas mask. That we
Yeah,
you
there
never
you
know. It's true. Michael Penix is not gone yet. Bo Nix is not gone. Oh, there's Penix.
Just went.
Penix gone.
Oh,
So now you're at 50. Oh, wow.
Oh, I take this.
We definitely
Okay.
take that, right?
yeah, let's do that deal.
Yeah.
Let's just see what other offers there are.
Oh.
That one's pretty spicy. I think that's their deal.
Move back 6 spots to get
An extra
87th pick. We're not trading with
dodge.
49ers. Screw you.
No.
Yeah, I think I take the.
You take the
Really?
third round pick, the extra third round pick.
Dallas deal, yeah.
Yeah. Or Dallas, yeah.
All right. Here we go. Let's at least look. We can come back to it. Let's at least look at who's. Oh, Sweat's available. I don't know if I'm moving out with Sweat there.
You're taking Sweat at 50?
The Seahawks most likely would not. I think it's
Leonard
fair.
Taylor.
He's 362 pounds. Like,
Yeah, he's a big
I
boy.
can't believe he measures that.
He's
crazy
a big
thing
boy.
is,
Chris
like-
Jenkins just went.
All these guys who are like in this spot, their value is going to completely change after the combine.
I agree. All right, let's take the offer because I
Let's
think
take
you guys,
the offer.
I think that's a good deal.
John's taking that offer for sure, I think.
And Sweat goes to Dallas.
I mean, I'm not surprised. That's where we were,
Yeah.
right? A poke is gone too. So now, I have not looked at the safeties. Cam Kitchens. Have you guys looked at Cam Kitchens much?
No, I haven't looked at safety at all.
All right.
Adrian Cooper is an interesting linebacker.
Who's this tight end?
I don't know.
Everybody got the Just Bombs scouting report on that dude?
Yeah, see, this is the thing that PFF has that they don't. So I can't get into to look at some of their data. Honestly, none of these guys are particularly excited. Like Colson's a guy I would pick potentially here.
I like Leonard Taylor a lot.
Is BB still there? No, we haven't. Yeah, we took all line.
Here, let's look at interior offensive lineman.
So they have Zinter.
BB's not there. He's gone. It looks
BB's
like.
gone, yeah. Zinter was a good guy to get too later.
Who were you saying, Nathan?
Leonard Taylor,
What position does
the
he play?
Miami defensive lineman.
Tell us about him. What do you like about him?
Defensive tackle, but a little, but lighter. He's like, I think, right about 300 pounds, but he's active, athletic. He's just one of those fun defensive tackles that kind of gets after it. And
I like Fisk as well on the defensive line side. I don't know as much about Hall. I'll have to look into him. All right, guys. What are we doing?
I mean, there's a couple interesting things here from like just positional need, right? Sanders, tight end. Cooper, I think, is supposed to be pretty good. Most people don't like this linebacker.
There's a bunch of linebackers though. Cooper, Wilson, Colson's still there. I think we can wait on that for 78.
Yeah. I would probably do Leonard Taylor, not knowing a lot about the other defensive linemen here.
All right. You cool with that, Jeff?
Yeah, let's go with that. See where we end up.
Oh, they like it. They like it, Nathan.
Oh, boy.
All right.
Well, this has got to be linebacker, I think.
Just see if my guy, Junior Colson, goes. Oh, he's not gone yet.
All right, draft him.
Let's go.
Jonathan Brooks.
Although we have not. Oh, we did get our guard.
Yeah.
We're not taking
We got a dominant guard.
Yeah.
Wait, but who? So is Edgerrin Cooper?
So
Edgerrin Cooper is more of a run and hit
let's
kind
look
of
him
guy.
up real quick. Edgerrin Cooper. This is a great podcast, but I'm just going to do it because I want to know his size. 6'3".
230.
Draft profile. So 4'5", 6'2", 227.
Small.
He's got a 90 grade from PFF.
This isn't PFF. This is just a.
No, but I'm looking at his PFF, and it says overall grade for 2023 with 90.8.
So what do you guys? Should we grab Cooper?
It's him or Colson.
I like
Colson. Me, Colson, because him and McDonald are going to be, and Colson's a good coverage backer. I don't know enough about.
Isn't Colson smaller?
He is. Let's go Cooper.
Yeah.
Oh, we can do Colson.
No, it's fine. We got to have Colson all the time.
Another A. Well, we can get both of them.
So we're not going to do any more trades. I'm tired of the trades. We're not. I can't believe Blake Corum's got this kind of rankings places. I think that guy is just like a backup back, but whatever.
Christian Haynes was another guard.
Christian Haynes is interesting. You still could get Junior. I think
Puny was mentioned by Jordan Reed in that tweet to me the other day, but that's another guard.
I actually don't even hate the idea of double dipping at linebacker.
I don't either, right? Cedric Gray is another linebacker that I like.
This is not the class to do it. Like all these guys are not, especially.
McMillan's interesting if you're thinking
McMillan's
about
a real
cutting Tyler.
interesting name. Yeah. When's our next pick? So we go 119. McMillan will probably be gone. I mean, assume that do they cut Tyler? Is it like
Even if they don't, like Tyler is probably a year or two more, right? Like
second linebacker, second guard, or a receiver. Which are you guys doing?
The nerds are screaming about positional value here with a guard, a linebacker, and a receiver. Like, the receiver is probably the move.
What do you think?
I want Junior Colson.
Yeah, I kind of want Junior Colson too.
All right, let's do it.
Really watched
let's do it. We're gonna watch and see what happens with Mr. McMillan. Where is he on the list? We're just gonna watch and see if he disappears before we come up here.
We should move back up.
So far, so good. All right,
let's go. Turn on the card.
We're turning it in for Mr. McMillan. Yeah.
Is there a quarterback that we should be thinking about?
That's a good question. That's a good question. So I've been looking at once you get out of the second round, my guy has been Jordan Travis. Like 5th, 6th round, he becomes interesting.
Yeah.
Joe Milton, maybe if you're I'm not a huge Joe Milton guy. But I think this is a turn in the card for McMillan, right?
Yeah, I think it's a no-brainer. Unless that Kate Stover.
Yes, that's the other option. Like you don't have your tight end. It depends on what. I mean, yeah. Is Jack Westover? It's crazy to think they might go for him in the late round. All right, let's take McMillan.
You'd have to love this draft.
Yeah, this would. I mean, you're not getting your quarterback though. Is really something to be. You're signing up for Drew Lock, most likely.
Gino, right?
Well, Gino and Drew Lock.
Yeah.
So we've got. We don't need linebackers. We've taken one, and we could probably go for another guard. We have not taken a tight end. So maybe top tight ends. Any tight ends you guys love?
Well, can we look at just tight ends, maybe?
Yes.
There's an Iowa tight end? Did I see that? No.
AJ Barner's is a blocking tight end. You can get him later.
Seems like a year.
I don't know about Jaheim Bell. Let's take a quick.
What round are we in?
We are in the 5th, I think.
Who's the? I know this is way too early. Is it Westover, the UW tight end?
Yeah, I know. He's on my list too. Bell draft profile.
We are officially in the stage where we're like 5th round. It's really early in mock draft season, so it's just like, who's that UW guy? Who's that Wazoo guy? Who's that?
This guy's interesting. 6'3", 235. He's almost like a receiver.
Jaheim Bell.
Yeah.
I think we need some more like meat. Like I don't know if we could take a.
Just all about the meat tonight.
Yeah, we need trenches.
Is Westover even on? Yeah, there's Jack Westover.
306.
Yeah, they got him way. He's undrafted free agent.
Who's Ben Sano? I've heard of him.
You guys start looking people up. All right. What do we want to do? We want to take tight end or we want to go a different position?
So is it Sano? Is that how you say it? Or is it Sanat?
No idea, but he's
Ben Sanat is 6'4", 21 years old, quite handsome.
Okay.
Got great hair.
Yeah, I think that's our pick.
He did not play for Iowa, but he is from Iowa.
What's his weight? What's his weight?
250.
Yeah, let's say that. 245.
All right, bigger guy. So we taking Ben Sano?
Yeah.
Done. All right. We got a lot of picks in this. I feel like this is too many picks. So are we thinking like safety? Thinking more like tackle. This is where I'd start thinking another like
Jordan Travis.
Tackle.
Jordan
Travis.
Dylan Johnson.
Yeah. I want to take a look at tackle real quick before we. Well, I guess Fuaga can play that as an alternative.
Not heard of one of these guys.
I don't know. Yeah. How about Jordan Travis?
Yeah, it's a flyer.
Done.
Hey, this might be the greatest mock draft we've done.
I can't say because I don't know Leonard Taylor. I don't know
Leonard
Cooper.
Taylor's good.
I don't know Ben Sano.
Frank Gore Jr.
We're not taking another fucking.
Why? You got to put Harbaugh and Frank Gore back together.
This is where I think it might make sense to take AJ Barner.
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Sold.
Oh, we doubled up on tight ends. That's fine.
We did.
That's good.
We did. We might need to.
All right.
And I think this is our last pick.
Any kickers we can replace Jason Myers with?
That's a good question.
Joshua Carty, Stanford.
Oh, another tight end from Iowa. We need Miles
Any
Murphy.
of these guys grabbing anyone? Sam Hartman with the hair.
Rolling too fast.
Am I scrolling
Cameron
too fast?
Little.
Okay.
Your first overall pick today.
That was fun. All right. I don't think it matters.
Let's take a kicker. Just
take a kicker.
Yeah, Joshua
you want the
Carty
Stanford
right
kicker?
There.
Done.
Yep.
Jason Myers, your days are numbered.
Okay.
That's why Evan left. He knew we were going to draft Myers replacement.
Well, this is gripping. So how do we feel about?
Do we get a
Hold
total
on.
grade here?
It's like an
Total.
A all in all.
How do you guys feel about this? If this was your draft,
I'd be losing my mind. If we got Fuaga at 22,
yeah, that's
Yeah.
not gonna happen.
no.
Would be cool.
Ben Baldwin would be so annoying with this draft. Taking a guard, a couple linebackers in your first 4 picks.
No offense.
He would hate it.
I mean, getting Jalen McMillan in the the 4th?
It feels good. I mean, you're like, okay, so you get a difference maker at a position of need with Fuaga. That's awesome. I think Leonard Taylor has a chance to be a really good player, can fit well into McDonald's system. Cooper and Coulson give you guys to fill around Brooks if you bring him back, or replacement options. I mean, you probably don't want 2 rookies starting at linebacker, but they're guys that, hopefully you can fill in and use right away. And McMillan's backup for what happens with Tyler Lockett down the road. Like, it's just it makes a lot of sense positionally at the very least. And you're getting guys that are, like Cooper and Coulson are 2 of the better linebackers in the class. Fuaga might be one of the best interior offensive linemen in the class.
Ryan, something's bothering you. What are you holding in?
I think the Fuaga thing is a distraction. Forget the name. I think that the 22nd spot is an ideal trade down target in the Philadelphia, especially because they've got 2 second-round picks. If you can package one of your thirds with your 16th pick and move back, you're going to get someone at 22 that you're going to be excited about, whether it's a defensive tackle, offensive guard. Like, there's going to be someone good there, regardless of whether it's Fuaga or not.
Yeah, because if that's Troy Fautanu or
right, exactly,
Howard Johnson or Byron Murphy,
exactly,
feel pretty good.
Johnny Newton, whatever, right? Yep. And then we also made the trade with that 2nd round pick. I think that was probably a pretty unrealistic trade, but that kind of made this whole thing where we went from having 1, 2, 3 picks in the top 120 to having 5 with those two deals. I like that because I think McDonald is a linebacker guy, and linebackers arguably the weakest position on this roster right now, noting Jordan Brooks is a free agent, Bobby Wagner is a free agent. Cupboard's bare. So I don't think it's wrong at all for them to potentially double up there. I think that would be pretty cool. Getting a receiver in the 4th or 5th or whatever that has a potential to have some upside would be really cool. I don't know that I really believe McMillan will last that long, but that would be cool. All right. I've kept you guys long enough. This has been eye-opening. I want us to next time talk through defensive free agents, so we can then enter the next mock draft thinking about which positions do we want to like. Interesting thing we just talked about is sign Kevin Zeitler, and if you drafted a guy like Fuaga or Fautanu or something like that, all of a sudden you've got a hedge against Abe Lucas, you've got a hedge against Anthony Bradford, you've got your left guard. Like, that offensive line all of a sudden becomes potentially a strength. New coaching, like, that feels like a huge part of this offseason. Sign a good guard, draft somebody. Like, don't fuck that up.
Yeah, it felt like a huge miss last year that offensive line, we thought the day 2 of the draft was a huge, and they ended up with just Bradford and Olu, who are both uncertain starters, maybe depth players. But last year we were hoping that 2nd round was the hole. They didn't do it. This year, I think, really sets up for it, where, especially with the Lucas's thing, you got to get one of the tackle guard guys that can, like Fautanu is such a good fit because of that. The hedges, Lucas, and if both of them can play, then that's a massive surplus value for the team.
Yep.
And they missed the opportunity last year to get bona fide starters. They got backups, and maybe Olu becomes a starter, maybe Bradford does, but they're backups at this point. They gotta get this right. This has been way too long, dating back 3 coordinators for this fucking interior O line has sucked. I can't watch this shit anymore. They gotta get this right.
On that note, I want to thank Nathan Ernst at Nathan E11, Evan Hill at Evan Hill HB, and Jeff Simmons at Real Jeff Simmons. I'm Brian Nemhauser at Hawk Blogger. Thank you all for tuning in. Be sure to sign up over at patreon.com/hawkblogger and subscribe to the channel. We will see you all very soon. Take care.